You're listening to the Ask Ava podcast, where we give real answers to real questions from teens and young adults about relationships, consent, dating violence, and more. My name is Jessica Scoltetti. I'm an outreach and prevention manager at Safe and Sound Somerset. We are Somerset County, New Jersey's lead organization for domestic and sexual violence services and prevention. And we have free services for children, teens, and adults who witness or experience violence. So today we're joined again by our volunteer, Ella Blank, who goes to the University of Maryland. Hi, Ella. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good too. Um, so we're going to have a discussion today, everyone, about a question we get pretty often, which is today's question is, Dear Ava, how do I get rid of the guilt for saying no to sex? So, Ella, what do you think about this right away?
Well, right away, I would say you're allowed to say no to any form of intimacy. Um, I think that's number one. And second of all, you have the right to say no in any regard, and no one should be making you feel guilty for saying no. So you have the right to make a decision for your body, and if anyone's making you feel guilty for that, then they are not respecting you or your decision. Um,
Mhm.
I know that sometimes it's easy for guilt to stem from not wanting to disappoint someone or not wanting to experience a negative reaction from a partner. So I think it's super important to emphasize that um, although you may want to prioritize another partner's feelings or make sure that you're taking care of them, it's important to realize that you should take care of yourself too and prioritize your opinion and be confident in saying no. And no one should ever make you feel bad for saying no.
Yeah, we are here to say that, right? We are here telling you today that you're allowed to make those decisions and to set boundaries because
Mhm.
Ella and I were just talking right before we recorded, and we were saying like a lot of us don't learn how to set boundaries at an early age, right? We don't necessarily learn, or we're not even really good at it. We don't prioritize ourselves. We prioritize serving other people, which is of course important, but you are so important. You are the most important thing. And if your safety is called into question, or you're not feeling comfortable around someone, like that's extremely important, right? So I
Mhm.
would like to say the more you set boundaries and you practice, the easier it gets. The more you realize what you want and you're able to put that into words, the easier it will get. So I was going to say, Ella, what do you think about, people who, if their partner's disappointed and they're pressuring them, like, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, for sure. That definitely happens in relationships. I mean, it's been questioned, that's been brought up before. And I think that when it comes to them pressuring you, then that's, first of all, not consensual. And I think in any point when someone expresses maybe a negative reaction to saying no and they purposefully make you feel bad or, um, like you said, are guilting them, that can be a form of guilt tripping, which is a form of emotional manipulation, which is a whole problem within itself. Um, in a relationship or even just any time when you're being intimate with someone, because when it comes to consent and things like that, both parties should be happy and willing to partake in it. So if anyone is making you feel bad or, you know, doing anything of that nature, that is guilt tripping and not consensual. Um, yeah, I know you said something earlier about consent, um, and how to know when it's non-consensual versus consensual.
Yeah, yeah. According to New Jersey law, so it's going to change wherever you live, but generally, according to New Jersey law, if you're pressured or threatened into sexual activity, that is not consent. That is sexual assault. If you had to say yes to survive, that's not consent, right? So, and I know people either way feel guilted. Like you were talking before, Ella, in this episode about maybe you just weren't in the mood. Maybe you had a bad day. Maybe you're not feeling up to it. You just don't feel like getting involved with sexual activity right now. That's okay. And we're here to say you don't have to feel guilty, because your decisions are just as important as your partner's. Your feelings are just as important as your partner's. And yes, they might be disappointed, right? But it's disappointment. It's not the end of the world. It happens to everyone. It's not like TV and movies, right? It's not like that all the time where people are constantly just ready to go, right? So I think that's another reality check, is we have to think about ourselves as humans, right? And I just wanted to say that, you have the right to say no anytime.
For sure. I think it was really good that you emphasized, like, we are humans. We feel different things, may not be in the mood. They might not be in the mood. And if they are disappointed, I know sometimes it's super easy for them to naturally maybe give off a response that would make you feel guilty. But if anyone's purposefully making you feel guilty or purposefully pressuring you, that is a form of emotional manipulation and non-consensual.
Yeah, and if they do pressure you into something, any kind of sexual activity, that is sexual assault, right? So we did also want to mention, we talked about this topic in a slightly different way in episode 161, which is answering the question about what if my partner is disappointed. But kind of to wrap this one up, we really just wanted to add that, you don't have to feel guilty. You can say no. It's all good. We move on. And if your partner's disappointed, that's a whole nother thing, and that's something they have to deal with. But if you need support, if you experience sexual assault, if you're really feeling guilty and you can't talk to your partner about it, just know that you can call or text the Safe and Sound Somerset helpline. Our number is 866-685-1122. And we have trained advocates and helpers who can talk with you about abuse, sexual violence. If you're feeling unsafe or unsure, you don't have to go through that alone. So just know that there are people out there who want to support you. So Ella, did you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
I would just reiterate what you said. Have confidence in your ability to say no. You are allowed to or entitled to your opinions in every regard. So I think in that situation too, you are allowed to say no, and you should be able to confidently say that without anyone making you feel bad for that.
Yeah, I always say this. I think this is like another thing to say at the end here is your body is yours. Your decisions are yours. They're not your partner's decisions. They're not your family's decisions. They're not your friends' decisions. Your decisions are yours. And there's a lot of power in that. So on that note, thank you so much for being here today, Ella.
Of course. Thank you for having me.